Everyone, welcome back. My name's Dustinkreis, and today we are going to do a game discussion over this game right here, Danganronpa 2, Electric Boogaloo. Goodbye Despair for the PlayStation Vita, brought to us by Spike Chunsoft nowadays, and Miss America. And this is, of course, the sequel to one of the sort of sleeper hits of this year, the original Danganronpa. I remember pre-ordering the first game and not really knowing what I was getting myself into, just that it had like a really handsome box set, and I got it and got into like, I saw it was a visual novel and I just kind of finished 999, so I was like, oh yeah, let's do another one. And this is a lot different from those types of games. Those are more room escape games, whereas this is more of a trial game, kind of like the Ace Attorney series, I've heard. And yeah, this has been a completely wild ride. The only thing that would have been better than getting both of these games in 1 year is if NIS, instead of trying to steal all of our money, released them like they did over in Japan, which is both games on one Vita cart, because these originally started out as PSP titles, and you know, I doubt they fill an entire Vita cart. So, you know, over here in the States, we kind of got ripped off a little bit because they split the games into two different releases. But the duology is done for the moment. It kind of hints at maybe a third game, which I am completely game for. But Danganronpa 2 kind of... it builds upon its predecessor, but it also kind of takes what the original game did and kind of make it worse in some ways. And we'll talk about that when we get to the gameplay. But the storyline picks up an undetermined number of years after the first game, and a whole new group of students have been rounded up and are taken to this very utopian island, and they're told that they're going to live basically in harmony and peace. And it's a school trip, and they're just there to do nothing but have a good time, rebuild hope within themselves, and all that stuff. And then, of course, that dastardly teddy bear, Monokuma, shows up and screws the entire thing. And this, what was going to be a very relaxing and luxurious trip, turns into another killing game. And how this works is, you know, each chapter there's a murder and you have to solve it. And one of the murderers is one of the other students. And aside from that, the mystery itself, there is also the mystery of the island, whereas in the first game there was the mystery of the school. And the story of Danganronpa 2 really builds off that first story. I really recommend you guys play the first game and then play this one, because you're going to be kind of lost in the later stages of the game. But all said and done, I kind of, now looking back on it, I kind of liked the school setting more than the island setting. I understand what they were trying to do with the island setting, but there's something creepy about that school setting and being locked in that building. And I kind of thought it'd be weird that an island would be creepy, but it does work, and the island was creepy at various occasions. But yeah, the storyline builds and builds and builds and just adds on layer upon layer of confusion and mystery, and then all of a sudden at the end, it completely redeems itself. I was really surprised at the ending of this. When these games, you know, make all these confounding storylines, it's really hard to resolve it in a satisfying manner. And I really felt, much more so than the first Danganronpa, this one really resolved itself extremely well, I thought. And it was a pleasure to see these characters through. And it actually made me sad in a couple places. There was a couple characters I actually really liked, and they may or may not have survived the island. But even the survivors are not completely untouched. But yeah, definitely storyline perspective, I love what they do with these games. And the only thing I kind of don't like, and it's not really I don't like it, it's just I think it's kind of ridiculous and silly, is the fan service moments. And NIS, there's a lot of NIS games that have this in it. And I'm not trying to be like, because I'm not a prudish person at all. But when you're sitting there playing this game, and then all of a sudden it comes to this like very supposedly sexy scene, you just kind of roll your eyes, because I don't know, I'm just not a 15-year-old kid anymore that gets turned on by cartoons, but that is in here. So if you're thinking about maybe letting like a teenager play the game, it definitely earns its M rating with both the sort of the fan service stuff and just the language throughout. The blood is often rendered in a very bright shade of pink, so it's not really gruesome to look at in that regard, but in terms of the language and the fan service stuff, it definitely earns its M rating. The gameplay, if you've played the first game, you just kind of walk around the school, talk to students, form bonds with the students to get you know, skills to use in the trials. And then there's a murder, and then you investigate the murder, find clues, and then go to the class trial and use those clues to try to figure out who done it. And the who done it aspect is really what draws me into this game. I really like solving the mysteries. The unfortunate thing is, much like the first game, the logic is just sometimes baffling to me. Like, I clearly have a truth bullet that will countermand what someone says, but the game does not want me to countermand that line. It wants me to countermand another line with a different truth bullet. And I mean, sure, fine, trial and error, whatever. But it does get a little frustrating, especially when you just can't figure out what bullet to use because it just seems like nothing fits. And of course, there are other gameplay aspects that gets you around that, like stealing someone's line and using it against them. You can press the triangle button to change your reticule, and you can record what someone says and then use it against them in the next round. Because if you make it all the way to the end, the game does kind of give you a clue as to what you should be looking for, and then you can start that argument over again and hopefully figure it out. There's some other mini games in there, and the mini games are really what drag it down. The logic drives, I mean, they're not hard, but I just hate them. They just take me out of the game. You're kind of dropped down on this hoverboard, and you have to hover around through this obstacle course while answering questions, and it's whatever. The Hangman's Gambit is a little bit better, but a little bit worse. I don't know. It always annoyed me when the Hangman's Gambit came up. I do like, what's the one I do like? Shit, I just forgot it. Like, in talking about the Hangman's Gambit, I forgot the one I do like. But there is a minigame that I do like, but I can't remember what it is right now. Is it on the back? Of course not. Big picture of the logic drive, though. But anyway, you move through all these minigames, and there's a rhythm minigame that usually ends every trial, and it just seems like the timing is off. Because I feel like I have a good sense of timing with a 4/4 beat, and I'm sitting there hitting the 4/4 beat, and I'm missing every time. So I guess it's more visual clues than the tempo of the music, which they say it's the tempo of the music. But yeah, you solve the trials, and you move through the game, and you finally unravel the mystery. There are certain things to find in the levels. You have to find these hidden Monokuma plushies. I missed a couple, so I might go back and try to get them all just to see what that unlocks. There's also some other mini games you unlock as you play the game. There's one where Monami, who is the pink rabbit, she fights these things called the Mono Beasts, which block your path to the other islands, much like, you know, the staircases were blocked in the first game. So you can play that and see Monami fight the Mono Beasts if you really want. In terms of the music, if you love the Danganronpa 1 soundtrack, which there's a lot of tracks on there I really loved, this reuses a lot of the music. There's some new tracks, but for the most part it reuses a lot of the music. And the voice acting is pretty fantastic. There's actually no characters on here that really annoyed me in terms of their voice acting. Even the ones like Nekakuma, he shouts all the time and everything, he just yells it all the time. And then there's Gundam, who I actually really liked Gundam because everything was very overly dramatic and, oh, I'm evil, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, the audio is really great. The graphics, if you played Danganronpa 1, you know exactly what to expect. You kind of move around the island in this 3D, you know, first-person perspective type way, but all the characters look like cardboard cutouts, and they really don't do anything to disguise that. And when you go into different rooms or buildings to investigate, a lot of times it's just a static picture that you can move around on to look for clues. It's really a very distinct graphical style, and like Danganronpa just completely embraces it. You know, it knows it's a visual novel. It's not supposed to have these flashy graphics, so you know, why not kind of make fun of it? And that's kind of what it does. But anyway, you know, it's really hard for me to separate these two games and really tell you which one is better. I think I would probably stick with Danganronpa 1 just because it seemed more fresh when I played it, and this one, of course, is a sequel, so... But really, I kind of look at both of these as one thing, and even in my Game of the Year discussion, which is, you know, coming up in December, wherever this falls in that list, I think I'm going to put both games on the same number because it's really hard for me to, you know, say which one is the better one. They both seem like two halves of the same whole. But I think you'll definitely get a lot more enjoyment out of Danganronpa 2 if you play Danganronpa 1. Not only more enjoyment, but you will be completely confused when you get to the end of Danganronpa 2 if you haven't played the first one. So anyway, I highly recommend this. If you're looking for something new to play, a visual novel, this is a great one, along with 999 to sort of get you into the genre. But yeah, it's a great one, guys. I got to the last chapter and I had to kind of put it down every now and then because, you know, we'd go out, my girlfriend and I would go out and I'd watch, you know, her daughter and stuff like that. So I didn't get, you know, to play it all through in one big swoop, but here and there I got through the last chapter and it was just really satisfying to see where they took this game. And it's going to be really satisfying to see where Danganronpa 3, if it ever comes. I don't even know if they're in development with it yet. But if it ever comes, it's going to be really awesome to see what they do with that, because I didn't think that this would even come close to the quality of Danganronpa 1, but it really does and stands, you know, shoulder to shoulder with it. So anyway, that is Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair by NIS America. If you've got a Vita and you haven't been playing it, definitely check it out. But that's all for me, so I'm getting off here. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.